Good morning. Today is Wednesday, Tes Nisan Tavshin Ayin Daled. We are in Teres Menachem Sefer Mamorim, Tavshin Yud Aleph, Tavshin Yud Beis. In the Rebbe's Mamar of Achne Shal Pesach, Tavshin Yud Beis. We are on page Reish Samach Zayin, Ois Hey. I think the best way to go about this is to first try to speak out orally the point that I was trying to make, because it's a rather detailed, intricate point, and then try to do it inside. The Rebbe is explaining the difference between nature, miracles that defy nature, and miracles that are clothed within nature. And the Rebbe is explaining that miracles that are clothed within nature are higher, are rooted higher than miracles that defy nature. The Rebbe explained, the Rebbe gave two explanations where we see a qualitative advantage in miracles that are clothed within nature over and above miracles that defy nature. That was in chapter 3. And the Rebbe said like this. The two explanations are as follows. What is nature? Nature is something which is vitalized, animated, which comes from a limited godly force. That's why the world is limited, nature is limited. A miracle is a revelation of an unlimited godly force. Now there are two ways in which Hashem's unlimited godly force makes itself present. What's a miracle? It reveals that. There are two ways in which that can become revealed. One is by breaking nature, by overriding nature, by crushing nature. And one is by causing nature to behave as Hashem wants. Unusually. Not, of course, nature behaves as Hashem wants, but to cause nature to defy its own personality, its own characteristic, its own nature, and to behave unnaturally, precisely. Now, a miracle that's beyond nature crushes nature, breaks nature. Miracles that are clothed within nature. So I'm sorry. So when Hashem's infinite, unlimited ability crushes nature, what does that mean? It means that revelation hasn't come down and become manifest in world itself, in nature itself. It broke nature. So it reveals itself, but it overwhelms it. Miracles that are clothed within nature, it means that the revelation of Hashem's infinite ability, infinite light, is what? Within the world itself. So in a sense, it combines the limited with the unlimited. In order to do that, it has to come from a power which is greater than the two. That's explanation one. Explanation two is that a miracle reveals that Hashem rules over nature. Now when that revelation is the way that it breaks and crushes nature, it means that Hashem is stronger. Remember the metaphor that I brought you from the wind and the sun. It's stronger. It's so strong that it can even break and crush nature. But it's a far greater demonstration of rulership when you don't crush the one that's subordinate to you, but rather you cause that one to behave according to your will, notwithstanding the one that's subordinate's own will. So a miracle that defies nature crushes nature. A miracle that clothes itself with nature causes nature that reveals that Hashem rules over nature to such an extent, that revelation of God's infinite power is to such an extent that it could even cause nature to behave the way He wants, despite nature's own natural framework. So what's the difference between these two explanations? In the former explanation, we're talking about what? Where the miracle comes from. That it takes a greater power to fuse the limited and the unlimited. So in a miracle that's clothed in nature, it comes from a higher place. The second explanation is in the miracle itself, in the revelation of the infinite, Hashem's infinite light itself. That the revelation is within world is greater, is to a greater extent within the framework and characteristics of world, is greater where? In a miracle that's clothed in nature, as opposed to a miracle that defies nature. Clear so far? That's point number one. In order to explain the difference between these two explanations, in the qualitative advantage of miracles clothed within nature over and above miracles that defy nature, the Rebbe prefaces this by bringing from the Akedah that within nature itself we also find an unlimited element. Where? In the constancy of nature. The fact that nature doesn't change, the fact that when Hashem created 5,754 years ago, the sun, the moon, and the stars still exist, the fact that on earth, humankind, animals, and so on and so forth reproduce and continue to exist, that is an element of eternity. That's a revelation, that's a manifestation of something unlimited. How does that come into nature? Nature is finite. The world is finite. And it's not only the physical aspects of the world, and nature and creation are finite, but that means that the source from where it comes from, the godly life force that animates it and causes it to exist, is also inherently limited. So how do you get an unlimited element within nature? That's a revelation of Hashem's infinite ability. The Rebbe in the next section is going to explain where that comes from. So what's the difference between the unlimited element within nature as opposed to the unlimited revelation that's revealed through a miracle? The difference is in two things, the Rebbe says. Number one, in order to see the unlimited aspect within nature, you need to delve, you need to contemplate, you need to observe, you need to look and see. What comes to the fore immediately is the finiteness of the world, the limited elements of the world. If you think about it and you contemplate and say, 1 second, there's a constancy here, this is unlimited. So there's a presence of an unlimited element as well. Whereas in a miracle, it's plainly obvious that it's from an unlimited, that it's a revelation of something far greater and unlimited. Point number two, the unlimited element within nature, the constancy within nature, its purpose and its function is to assist nature in its behavior. It's built into the DNA of nature. We'll soon see where it comes from, right? So it becomes, quote, normal. Whereas when we talk about the revelation of the unlimited element of Hashem's infinite power, of Hashem's infinite light, that makes itself known and revealed in a miracle, it is a revelation of an unlimited element of Hashem, which is unusual, which is unnatural. Which means it's a revelation of a different strand of Hashem's unlimited ability. Clear? Where does this come from? Where does this unlimited element within nature come from? So the Rebbe Rashab in Tafir Samach Vav says it comes from the it comes from the Eir HaKav. The Kav. What's the Kav? If you remember, just very briefly, that before, when Hashem decided to create the world, Hashem's infinite light filled the entire void. Hashem made a tzimtzum, he contracted his infinite light and caused, metaphorically, a chalal u'makom panui, an empty space, a void. And then, devoid of what? Devoid of Hashem's infinite ability. And what was revealed was Hashem's power to limit. So there was a force that limited and pushed aside the Ein Sof, which means that force that limited force is stronger than the unlimited force that existed there before. And then Hashem drew down a kav of Ein Sof, a line of infinite light through the tzimtzum, and it illuminated, it broke through and it illuminated the darkness of the Tzimtzum, and that kav, that line of divine, infinite, godly light is the source of all of life, from the highest levels to the lowest levels. The higher in the pecking order you are, you get energy from a higher level in the kav. That's the kav denotes a line, which means it's higher and lower. The closer you are to the beginning of the kav, so to speak, the greater the revelation, the higher the created being or manifestation. The lower levels are attached, as it were, to the lower elements of the kav. Right? Where's the kav rooted? Says the Rebbe, and apparently this is a chidush of the Rebbe. That in other words, the Rebbe explains this more than what the Rebbe Rashab explains in Samach Vov. That since in order to break through a withholding force, you need to be stronger than that withholding force. It wouldn't be any good to draw down the original Ein Sof that was there, because the original Ein Sof that was there, where the Tzimtzum took place, was pushed away by the limited force. So in order for there to be revelation, it means it comes from a place where the Ein Sof has a greater power and ability than what? Than the Tzimtzum, than the Koyach HaGvul, than the withholding force that's there. So the Rebbe says it comes from Tiferes HaNe'elam. The revelation that was there is from Chesed HaNe'elam. The withholding force that caused the Tzimtzum is from Gvura HaNe'elemes. The Ein Sof, which comes back down into the Cholol HaMakamponi after the Tzimtzum, into this void, is from Tiferes HaNe'elam. And since Tiferes HaNe'elam is rooted in its source higher than Chesed and Gvura HaNe'elamim, therefore it has the ability to what? To push through and break through the Tzimtzum. Says the Rebbe, because of the root of Tiferes HaNe'elam, Tiferes HaNe'elam has within it an unlimited aspect, which is stronger than what? Than the withholding force, right? The constancy in nature, which is a manifestation of an unlimited aspect, is built into the kav because of its source in Tiferes HaNe'elam. That's the point that Rebbe makes.
Constancy
within nature
of the finite.
The constancy within the finite.
In the finite is stronger.
Is not stronger. Is rooted. Is not a revelation of a separate, unlimited force, but rather it's built in to the kav itself. In other words, the unlimited element within nature, which we see on a usual basis, is built into the DNA of nature itself. Because of Tiferes HaNe'elam, which is the root of the kav, because of the kav is rooted in Tiferes HaNe'elam, and Tiferes HaNe'elam is rooted beyond Gvura and Chesed HaNe'elamim. From there, the Rebbe goes in to discuss miracles. What are miracles? So again, the unlimited element within nature is what? That's part of nature. That's not unusual. That becomes part of the framework of nature, and its function is in order to assist nature to continue. So it's part of the natural framework. A miracle defies nature. Even a miracle that's clothed within nature. Even a miracle that's clothed within nature. A miracle that's clothed within nature doesn't become nature. It's still a miracle. So now the Rebbe in chapter 5 explains the qualitative advantage of miracles that are clothed within nature over miracles that defy nature. And then he goes back and says there's nevertheless a qualitative advantage within miracles that defy nature over and over miracles that clothe themselves in nature. And then he goes back and explains again that notwithstanding that, miracles that clothe themselves within nature still possess a qualitative advantage over miracles that defy nature. That's the thread. What does he say? Do we have a little more time?
Yeah.
What does he say? He says like this. He goes back to the two explanations that he gave before in the qualitative advantage that miracles that clothe themselves within nature have over and above miracles that defy nature. And he says like this. Just like we said concerning the unlimited element within nature itself, the constancy within nature, that is because it's rooted within the kav, which is rooted in Tiferes HaNe'elam, which is rooted higher than Chesed and Gvura HaNe'elamim, which would be the original Ein Sof and Tzimtzum. Right? You follow? Which means that in order to fuse two opposites, you need to have a greater force, greater than the two. That's why Kav is able to break through the Cheshech, the darkness of the Tzimtzum, and also bring an unlimited element within the normal, usual behavior of nature, the constancy within nature. Same thing is with miracles, says the Rebbe. One qualitative advantage that miracles that clothe themselves in nature have is the fact, in other words, like this, that these two types of miracles, the miracles that defy nature, and miracles that clothe themselves in nature, are revelations of two aspects of Hashem's infinite light. Which are inherently beyond clothing themselves in nature. That's why they're miracles. Unlike the unlimited element of the nature, which becomes part of nature. You with me?
Yeah.
So he says like this. Miracles that are clothed within nature, they, to a certain extent, in this sense, just like we said concerning the unlimited element within nature, is because of the fact that it's rooted higher. Right? From Tiferes Hanelam and so on and so forth. Similarly, when you talk about a miracle that's clothed in nature, this indicates that what? That it's a revelation. So this points to the fact that it has also the quality of natural conduct, even though it's a miracle, because it causes. It's a miracle in the sense that it's unusual for nature to behave in this way. But when it does make itself present, it causes nature to behave in that way for the period that the miracle takes place, right? Number one, it fuses to a certain extent with nature, which means it's greater, as explained before, the power to convince is greater than the power to compel, than to force. You need a greater power to convince someone to behave in a certain way, rather than to force someone to behave in a certain way. So that would be, that points to the fact that miracles that are clothed within nature that points to the root of the miracle that clothes itself within nature. And then there is a special quality in the miracle itself. What is revealed? So the first aspect talks about what? The root, where it comes from. In order for a miracle to clothe itself in nature and cause nature to behave in accordance with Hashem's will, it means it's rooted from a higher place than a miracle that defies nature. But then there's another element. In the miracle itself, in the behavior of the miracle itself. In a miracle that clothes itself within nature, what is revealed? That Hashem rules over nature to such an extent that He's able to cause nature to behave in accordance with His will. So one aspect points to the root of the miracle, and one aspect points to the quality of the miracle itself. That's what he says in Oisei. Got another few minutes? Davening 10 past, yeah? So let's try to do this. Then the Rebbe is going to go into what? To go and to explain the qualitative advantages in miracles that defy nature. But let's leave that for a moment. Let's try the beginning of Oisei. Hey, now based on what we explained before, Sif Dalet in chapter 4, that what? Shagam page Reish Samach Zayin. Shagam matmidiyus shaban hogas hateva hu ali deyam shachas agilei nesav hablig gvul shel ma'alam ha'elim is that also the constancy within nature is through the fact that there is a revelation and manifestation of Hashem's infinite light, which is beyond worlds, right? But and the qualitative advantage that miracles possess is that through them, what makes itself present and what is drawn down is Hashem's infinite, unlimited light, which is inherently beyond clothing itself in the world. Yesh Leimer, says the Rebbe, the Shnei Asugim Shebenisim, we could say that the two types of miracles, Nisim Shalamayla Ma'ateva, V'Nisim Am Lebashim Beteva, miracles that are beyond nature and miracles that clothe themselves in nature, Heim Shnei Ifanim Begil Nesav Abligvul Shalamayla Mislapshos Begvul, are two modes of revelation of Hashem's infinite light, which are inherently beyond clothing themselves in nature. And the Rebbe goes and explains that. Zeshin is part of the Ilsif Gimel. The fact that we explained in chapter 3, where the Rebbe explained the two qualitative advantages that miracles that clothe themselves in nature have over and above miracles that defy nature. One explanation was that the qualitative advantage that miracles that clothe themselves in nature possess is that the revelation of Hashem's infinite light, the unlimited infinite light, clothes itself within the limitation of the world itself, not like the constancy within nature, but in an unusual way. Who? This points to the fact that in this type of miracle, it also has the quality, somewhat, of natural phenomena, which also has an element of unlimitedness within it. But then there is a quality that miracles that clothe themselves in nature possess within the miracle itself, which means the revelation of Hashem's infinite light, which is beyond clothing itself in nature. What is this qualitative advantage? That in these types of miracles are revealed the fact that Hashem's unlimited infinite light, which is inherently beyond clothing itself within the framework of the world and nature, rules over nature to such an extent, in such a way, that even nature itself becomes in accordance to Hashem's will, which is which is the second explanation in the above mentioned chapter 3. So in other words, where do we see, in terms of these two explanations, when we talk about the qualitative advantage that miracles that clothe themselves within nature have, over and above miracles that defy nature, where, in which of the two explanations do we see it more? In the second explanation, where Hashem, where the Rebbe explains that Hashem makes His unlimited, infinite power manifest to such an extent that it convinces nature to behave in a miraculous way. It convinces nature to behave in accordance with His will. That in that element is expressed in a revealed way the qualitative advantage that miracles that clothe themselves in nature have over and above miracles that defy nature. It's just that when you delve deeper into it, you come to the first explanation that it must come from a power which is higher than miracles that defy nature. The Rebbe is then going to go on and explain the qualitative advantage that miracles that defy nature have in these two elements, and say that at the end of the day, if you're talking about revelation, a miracle that defies nature, right? First of all, it breaks nature. Second of all, it's an unbelievable revelation. And the Rebbe is going to then explain that nevertheless, the true bittul of nature to the Ein Sof, which is beyond nature, is more manifest in a miracle that's clothed within nature over and above a miracle that's beyond nature, which points to the fact that ultimately it's rooted in a higher place. And from that he's going to go back to Ar Enu Niflois, which are that in the time to come we will see miracles. The question that I've asked was, what's the emphasis on seeing? Because we're talking about inherently miracles that are clothed within nature, which are inherently not seeable, so to speak. And in the time to come, we will see even that. That's the thread. So if you bear with me, slowly we'll, let me get there.